I'm now speaking with Bob Bastian, candidate for mayor Fort Wayne. Bob, that's a big feat, but I know you can handle it. Tell me something here. I just found out today that you are a sergeant major.
Right, in the Marine Corps.
Marine Corps. How long were you in the Marine Corps?
32 years. In the Marine Corps Reserve, I should state.
Okay. How long were you active duty?
Active duty, very short period, but I was all over the place. In other words, I would go extra time, like I trained Seabees after Viet Nam.
Seabees?
Navy Seabees in Gulfport, Mississippi.
What is that?
They are a construction battalion of the Naval Service.
Okay.
And they built the runways, the landing strips, and ports when you need them. And during Viet Nam, they got attached to the Army, the Air Force. And even though they're good fighters and everything, they weren't trained in how to do defensive tactics. And I was like second or third one after Vietnam to train them in that. I trained the reserve units in it. I'd go to Glenview Naval Air Station, Gulfport, Mississippi. I helped open up for training Seabees at Fort Custer and Camp Atterbury when we came back. I didn't open the base up. I opened it up for the training of the Seabees. Yeah.
So you are used to being over things and calling the shots.
Yeah. And if I think something's wrong, I'll tell you. And if I think you're doing good, I'll tell you.
How does that type of experience transfer over to being mayor of a city?
Well, I think it has to do with, I don't get politically motivated, Democrat, Republican, okay? I am on the Republican ticket, but I won't vote party lines. I never have, and I'll go for what the people, when I was stationed in Detroit right after the riots up there, I worked with the people to get stuff done, I think it transports to that I've got enough backbone that I'm not gonna give, and you can't bribe me, okay? Just because, hey, I'll come in and I'll do this, and I'll fix the city and do this. If you're a good, honest company, yes, I'll work with you. Or a person.
What is it about the current political climate that really motivated you to want to get in the middle of things?
Well, I've been living here since 1965. I'm from Lafayette, okay, Indiana. I've been here 65. I've got 4 children here, 6 grandchildren. This is home now, I go back home and all the schools and everything else is gone. So this is home, and what kind of got me into it, and I was negative about the baseball stadium going downtown. I said, why don't we repair it and keep the money out there to the Coliseum? And then it started changing a little, okay? And it is growing, okay? But I was against spending, $250,000 to $500,000 for signs, 54 signs, to tell you where the zoo was or someplace like that. And there was an arrow that said zoo, but didn't tell you how far. We already had signs, and out of the 54 of those signs, 27 of them were for private company. Why should the citizens be paying for a private company? I was really against the giving St. Francis money for the building, not for students, not for training, for that. They could come up with that money. They got fundraisers. That money, I think, could be better used with the citizens. And I've been up and down the ladder a couple times. I got no mountains to climb. I don't have to worry about my hair getting white, because I'm already there. If I get in, at my age, I'm not going to be here forever. And if I figure I get one good 4-year term in, I can help get stuff better where the citizens need it. In other words, Southwest was always having a high crime area. Excuse me, Southeast, I'm sorry. Southeast was having a good high crime area. I live in the Northeast. We got the captain in there, the chief of police, I call him captain, chief of police, Gary. He's done a tremendous job. Taking us down, I think, 68% drop in crime. That's what we need, people who care. I have been on both sides. I've stood in line for food, and I always like to use this term, and I'll not exaggerate, but I use this term. I've been a millionaire a couple of times and lost it all, okay? And I feel it wasn't in my fault that I lost it. It had to do with some government stuff that happened. But I've been down that road. I have no mountains to climb, and I'd rather help the people that are there. If you check like the soup kitchen, I give thousands of cans to soup. I give clothes to Woodburn Children's Christian Home. And I do that because being in the real estate business, I see all this stuff and it goes in the dumpster, you know. And there's nothing wrong with giving it to them.
Wait, let's go back to the millionaire part here for
Okay.
a second. When you were working towards your first million, was your mind more focused on profit, margins, and things like that, or was it more on meeting needs better than the other guy? How was your mindset as you were
Okay.
building toward that?
It's like any independent, you want to make money. And I had people. And the thing is, when you look at what it was, I raised animals. I had breeders. They were $3,000 a piece. And then we find the government closes Allen County Bank, and that meant there was only 2 companies that that other banks wouldn't take the loan for. One was a marina up around Rome City, and was my business. My animals were 3,000. I had 2,000 of them, 3,000 a piece.
2,000, what kind of animals were they?
They were fur. I raised silver fox. I wouldn't do that today. I wouldn't raise fox today, but I did then. And the thing was, I only owed $185,000 on my farm. But the FDIC came down through the bank, and the government says, we want we want you to pay right away. We won't. It was during Carter's time. We won't lower the interest from 21%, which they could. We found out, and they said we want it right away. So we couldn't come up with $185,000. No one was going to loan us money on the fox. So we had to end up pelting all the animals out. Okay, we ended up losing the farm, and that was the FDIC came down. That was the government one. Okay. I'll give you a quick one on the second one. I built a brand new building off Washington Center Road in Lima, 40,000 square foot building. It was approved by the building department here. It's not the current building department. We got good runners in it. It was the old management. Built the building. Cost me, I think the building was $1.8 million for my store. After I got the building, moved in, got condemned because the SBA wouldn't go along, found out they built a building, no expansion joints in it. They didn't anchor the top of the walls to the building. It was $440,000, you know. And the bank says, we want our money. They withdrew it because the SBA wouldn't make a loan. Now, again, the irony of this is when I bought the building, it was from a company here in town who, in this process, sold it. It was an LLC, a limited liability corporation. 4 years later, we get a court date, right? The company that bought it from this one sold it back to the same company, but one of their other divisions. My attorney told me, he says, you just got taken. So we got nothing out of that. I lost around $900,000 in that. And that wasn't play cash, you know. So I've been up and down the ladder. I've seen people burnt, and I'm sure a lot of people have run problems, and I didn't have enough money to have enough attorney. I had good attorneys, but it was a loss, you know. So I don't want to see. I have nowhere to climb. I'm not going to climb a mountain. I don't want my name on a building somewhere. I want to make sure people don't get burnt. And I have a pretty good working relationships with people once they get to know me. In my real estate, I'll give you an idea. My furniture business, I had over 150,000 clients. You'd be lucky to find 18 that didn't like me, and those are the ones who didn't pay me for the furniture. Okay? I've never had any complaints in the real estate business, you know. So, it's not like I want to have my name on a wall somewhere. I just want to make sure when I leave this world, I leave it not having a bad feeling that I didn't take this guy for on a house, or I didn't do this. If you get where I'm coming from.
So this type of a feeling or rapport or approach to people, did that come from your mom, your dad? Where'd that approach come from? Was that just a family way that you guys operate?
Well, my dad died when I was 2.5. Okay, my mom raised me, and my grandma and grandpa, along with my uncles. My uncles had a big influence. One was a prisoner in a German stalag. One lost a ship out from under him. They were tough. I learned, I think, the honesty and thing from them, you know. It's not, and our family's always been good, okay? We've never had any real bad problems in the family. We've never had anybody in prison, you know. And I understand that it happens, okay? What I've seen over a period of time from the upbringing I had, they weren't afraid to use a little switch on me if I was bad. In fact, I used to sling the paddles in school when I got a whipping. You know, but what I found out is we have lost somewhere along the line the parenting of kids. The love passed down from your grandmother, grandfather, and your kids down to you. We have not taught them history. I mean, they don't understand what history can repeat itself if you don't let it go. Look at Greece and those other countries, okay? So I don't know, I think it's been up the influence of my relatives had on me. Other people, I've had people that I met in the Marine Corps that were kind of my mentors, you know. I think it's basic, one of our biggest problems is we have in now age, and as I say, and I'll use a young age, but it's not aged, we're talking 20s to the 40s. What's in it for me? I got a feeling these colleges are graduating people that don't care. They want to see what's in it for me. How far can I get in this? How far can I stab someone in the back going up the ladder? You know, and I'll use the word stab in the back because they're climbing the ladder without honestly doing it, I think. So I think that's where it's at. And basically, I'll tell anybody that. I don't vote party lines. I don't think Mayor Henry has done an extremely bad job. And I don't think I don't say, I think things could be improved. He's done a decent job, you know. But I think we need to get out into the community more and get out of the downtown. And I have some mixed feelings on the riverfront. We're going to pump millions of dollars in that. And a riverfront should look like a riverfront, I think. You should see trees, a walkway, you know. The Indians use canoes in it, you know. So I don't think it should be a heavy industrial thing. When I say industrial, I'm talking retail stores and all that, you know. I like the park we got down there now, there, Headwaters Park. Seems to have some attention. I don't like to see all this go heavy, you know, storefronts. I also don't like the idea of, if we're going to build homes for people and help people, we don't build one-bedroom efficiency apartments. We build them a home. We work some way that they can own that home, own ownership. If you're going to put, I hate to use the word apartments, but if you're going to put up some complexes, have a garage. How many of these you drive around here and you see they have garages to put stuff in? They need somewhere to put their car, keep it safe. They need somewhere to put their private stuff. So that's where I come from. I've never lived in a rental. I've never lived in an apartment. Everything I had is I paid for and bought. And that was kind of the tradition I was brought up into.
You know, as you've had the opportunity to travel around the world, how will that experience help you in trying to create an identity for Fort Wayne? Because we've looked all over the place trying to bring things in here and try to find out who are we.
Okay, one of the things I think we waste our money on is going out and hanging these consultants in, and I'm not like Charlotte, North Carolina, it's a nice area, to there, or hire someone out of the area. And one of the words I got one time, well, Fort Wayne doesn't have any good developers, they can't think. You know, well, that's not right. I think that you may need them. And for instance, if you go out of the area, then you want to make sure we use local employees. I was stationed, as I say, in Detroit right after the end of the riots. We used to walk guard right downtown by Belle Isle. If you know Detroit, that's the first precinct. I was stationed in Chicago. Okay, I've been all over the place in different stations. And a lot of it I see is we build these apartments and throw people in and say, here you are, and all, once you got gangs forming in them. We haven't built them a way they could have a home, you know. The other thing, you were out of this when I want to say, Give you an example how I think we really done something dumb. Ardmore Avenue, we fixed that up, had it landscaped and all that. Where did we go to find out for a land? We went out of town to get someone to tell us how to plant trees. I looked it up at the time. We had 75 companies here, and I'm sure some of them were smart enough to know how to decorate it. But we went out of town.
I think that's
Waste of money.
I think that's something in the water that makes us think like that, where we undervalue our own intellect here, because that's why we have to go out and assume that people outside know more than what we know here.
That's right.
And that's always been done that way. I don't think that may not ever change.
Now, it could change if people see that something is happening. I was one of the first ones, and I think I was at one of the council meetings, to bring up, I was saying, why are all the home developers building north? Do you see anybody in the southeast, south, okay, or a little to the east? No, because they're feared of the crime. We got an interstate going around there. We could have businesses off of there. We got businesses, and I went, one day I had to go somewhere and I drove down, I think it was it was Anthony, across Tillman area and across to a meeting I had to go to, and I counted how many empty businesses there were, building for business. There was a ton of them, okay? We got buildings, there's got a building, I think used to be Target sitting over here.
Well, here's Kmart right here too.
Yeah, but I mean, that's been sitting there for years. I used to have a store, one little part of that, my furniture store had just a little bit of that store, okay? I used to own a company called Waterbed Experience and Baby and Bug Counter. I had a little bit of that, rented that, you know? They went out, and it's been sitting empty. What have we done to increase business? And I understand if I was sitting on the other end as the owner of the company, I'd be scared. I was in Southtown Mall before they did the remodeling. I was standing in one of these little shops, not one of the big Sears or anything, one of these shops. I watched this guy, he comes in and he takes something off the shelf, puts it in his pocket. And the girl was standing there, the clerk, watching. Goes out the door, and I said, aren't you going to call security? That guy just stole something. He said, no, we're afraid they'll come back and take more damage. Now, this is several years ago before they remodeled. That's the mentality we need to get away from, you know.
You just, Waterbed Experience, that was you.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and my wife. I work for my wife. You know, you always work for your wife, you know.
You know, so obviously that entrepreneurial drive is within you. And, you know, a while back, that was really being pushed real hard, you know, being an entrepreneur and all that. And anymore, you don't hear much about that. You don't hear, I mean, people are talking about jobs, and you don't hear much of a push anymore for younger people to look for entrepreneurship to help themselves. Why have we gotten away from that? Why don't we want to tell people that they can, go into business? I mean, the whole focus has shifted away from that to jobs and jobs.
Okay, and again, we talked a little earlier, and I'm going to come to this. I started selling papers at 12 years old. Okay, paper route. Okay. I started peddling ice cream. You've seen these ice cream trucks? Mm-hmm. Well, we had push carts and bicycles. You know, little three-wheel thing. I sold ice cream in I think it was 5th, 6th grade. I've always worked. I've hoed tomatoes out in the farm, you know, for my cousin and I. So I think we really don't build a working belief. We build, what can you give me? Or we do, what I want to say here, I'm trying to think of the word. Oh, we've got kids that don't finish high school. We had them when I was in school. But we don't do anything to really train them. I know the unions have, and I work union and non-union, so I don't pro one or the other. But I've seen that some of them have tried to get some of these young, and I'll say young kids, they're not really young kids, into the, we got ones that went to high school, never went to college, okay? And I did go to Purdue, don't hold that against me, but I only did 2 years, then I got married, you know, I don't have that big college degree or anything. But I think if a person starts working and working, and starts seeing the benefits he can get from it, or she can get from it, okay? I look at this, and probably people are gonna go off the deep end on this. We only have one alpha and omega. That's God, the beginning and the end. If you take that and put it in our human relationship, when a city or politicians, or I don't like to call power, someone who's elected to goes to they should go to the people as the alpha first. The people are the alpha, and when they put it all together, and then they come back to the people as the omega. The people should be at the front of the thinking. That don't mean the people are going to make a decision. They get feed in. A lot of these go out and don't even ask people. You've seen stuff happen. The people need to be involved. I would have a place where every day of the week someone, if they had a complaint, they could come in and talk, or if they had some questions they'd like to. I'm never, in all my people that I've led in the Marine Corps, I've never not listened to them, because some of them have some good ideas. Some have crazy ideas. Some have good ideas. But the thing is, I still had to make the decision. And that's where I think the people need to feed in and let the city council make the decision.
I noticed that you're frequently at the city council meetings.
Yeah.
Number one, why are you at so many meetings? And number two, how do you energize other people to as to the importance of them attending these meetings, to see how they operate? Don't go.
I kind of like to go in because it's interesting now. I'm 73, so I'm not retired, because I'll never probably retire. But I like to go and hear the things. In the last few years, I'm getting more interested in what's going to be left here for my grandkids and kids. I know where I'm going to be in a few years, so it's none of that, So I like to go, and I get along with most of them. I don't care what part they are. I get along, I talk to them, and I'll even send them suggestions. But if you notice, every other week when we can talk, I usually got something to say,
right.
And I just feel like it needs to get out there, And this was all before I said I was running for mayor, That came up one day. I'm sitting back and I'm looking at this, and it's snowy out. I'm going, what am I leaving? When I said, what am I leaving? I says, what have I done to make this place a better place to live? And I said, well, I think running for mayor would be some office. And I always kid everybody, the dog catcher was already taken, so there's not an opening. But I like to be humorous, but I can also, if I have to, jump down on something with both feet. And when I went and told my wife about this, she thought I was nuts,
Okay, we're going to have a forum coming up here on the 21st. And I did about as much as I can do in terms of asking the school corporations to invite their students. But, why would that be an education opportunity for students to watch you guys answer questions and question each other and things like that? I mean,
why we were talking along that line, I think it should be for students, not adults, except the teachers. That should be a separate one, adult. I think the students, because when you're talking to both older people and students, you tend to not want to run one way or the other, I feel. I think the students should be able to ask questions, because they just did something. I saw them on TV the other night. They went out on the street. Now, they were asking kids in college. They said, who was the Civil War? Who won the Civil War? Who was it between? Who did we have to defeat to win the freedom of this country, way back in? Most of them only one could answer. Now, but if you ask, who was it? Sean Penn was mayor, or somebody, one of those, who the actors and stuff, and who is, was it New Jersey something? I don't want to know that. Who are those people? They could tell you that. But we don't, I think, teach history to understand the responsibility we have to carry the history of the United States through.
One thing I've noticed is history teachers, to a large extent, they tell history, but they don't sell history. And I think that you can sell history in terms of selling the students on it in terms of its relevance. Because I'm thinking that a lot of kids a lot of people, aren't seeing the relevance of it. I had people in front of me repeat what you just said there, that they know the importance of history because it can repeat itself. And as they're saying it, they're ignoring what's right in front of their face, and they don't see it.
Yeah.
They can repeat certain things, but they can't see it themselves, how it is repeating itself.
Yeah, and a lot of them they've never walked this path, so they don't know what it's going to be like for their kids and grandkids. I've seen what my uncles went through during the Second World War. I've had, I think it was 5 or 6 uncles in the Civil War. I don't know, I just don't think, I think the school education system is letting us down on teaching. I don't even think they teach, I remember one time they even teach people how to handle your money. What's the first thing you get when you go to college? Someone sends you a credit card, some bank does. And people run up these bills. I see it when they go to buy houses or real estate. How many people have student loans that they can't pay or haven't paid? My theory would be, you go to school, you run this bill up, and when you get a job, we take 5 or 10% out of your pay to pay the loan off. It automatically comes, they get it. In Norway, they pay for, I got a sister-in-law who lives in Norway, they pay for the kids' education. But sales tax is 25% and income tax is average 70. I don't want that. But if a person knew he had to pay the bill back, and it's painless if it comes out of your paycheck. Mm-hmm. That's what, I'm for education, don't get me wrong, but there's also got to be taught economics, and stuff, and how do you handle your money, that's.
Well, now, when you first decided that you're going to be running for the office of mayor, and I've heard you mention your wife 3 or 4 times here.
Yeah.
How did she originally feel about the idea? Because, it's going to affect her too.
Well, it will. And I said, she said, well, you're old enough, what do you want to do? You get retired. We could be living in Hawaii or in the country of Belize, eating fish and shrimp and all that. And I think after 50 years of marriage, she's probably figures she can only lead me so far, and I'm going to go one direction and so on. But I think she does not have a real negative feeling about it, but she thinks I'm dumb for going out and doing it when I could be retired. You know what I mean? You follow where I'm coming from? Yeah, everybody said, what are you doing that for? I said, well, I've seen some things happen. I won't ever slander any candidate, okay? Mm-hmm. I've seen some things happen. I see it on the national. Boy, this person, spit on the floor. That means he doesn't like anybody or something. We get carried away more in trying to stab someone in the back or find something wrong than we do trying to work together, and form something. I'd like to see, when I do retire and I move out of the area, I would like to see low unemployment and good unemployment, okay? That doesn't mean we just throw out and gonna give everybody $15 an hour. But the people that are employed are making a livable income and they work for it, and they get honored for it. Like when I ran a business, we're here, I had employees. And if they didn't do something right, when I ran factories, I ran a couple factories. Say my foreman wanted to fire a guy. That foreman came to me first. He just didn't fire him because, you can have conflicts of things, and they fire him because they want to get rid of him. That doesn't happen. I believe that person who's out there, I used to dig ditches and pour concrete. I finished concrete when I was in junior high school with my uncle. He owned a concrete thing. I did it during summer, and I did that. Poured half the concrete, I think, at Purdue. But the individual deserves a right. If I'd have been fired for it because someone didn't like me, I'd been fired a lot of jobs. But the thing is, Now, if they're wrong, yes, you get rid of them. If they're not, you have an understanding and straighten it out.
And also, you know, I'm still staying centered on the political aspect, but you keep mentioning your family also, and obviously genealogy is important to you. You know, for you, how has that benefited you in knowing what your grandfathers and great-grandfathers, your ancestors, how has that benefited you to know what they did, and how has that had an impact on you? Because Fort Wayne is somewhat genealogically oriented, and a lot of people just don't realize what that type of a study does for you individually.
Well, I've got a cousin who's been president of 2 colleges, vice president of a couple. I've got another cousin who owned his own business. Okay. I've got other cousins that have owned their own business. All of us come from a working family. We've always worked. Our parents have worked. We never had anything handed to us. You know, we never had any, say, okay, one of our grandparents or someone dies and leaves you $1 million. We've never had that. Okay. We used to, and I want to say how to say this. I think we used to we learned where our parents worked for, what they did, how they did. Some were farmers, some were other trades, but it's something I kind of is instilled from you, you know. And maybe that's where I got the whippings from. I'll say that. You don't do that anymore. It's cruelty, you know. But I think it comes from a background of family, parents, mother and father. As I say, I lost my father when I was 2.5. When I was 2.5, and my uncles helped take over. They made sure I got guided in the right way. I think my mother worked. She worked for $35 a week, and to raise me, you know. And I don't know if we see that nowadays. I know they don't teach it in school like they used to, you know.
You know, okay, so we've talked about your military background.
It's just my gut feeling. I want to do something, and it's my military background. Yes, I don't, how to say this? There is no defeat for me, okay? We never lose. We always go forward and gain something, you know.
But I was going to ask you, you know, we hit on different aspects of your life and your persona, but for people who haven't had a chance to meet you yet, you know, what is the most important things that you want them to know about you as to why you'd make a great mayor for this city?
The thing is, if someone's got a problem, they can come to me and I'll listen to. I'm not going to say you got to talk to 6 people before you get to me. You may have one person to get the snore down, then they'll come to me. I will listen to them. And if you look what I've worked with veterans, I was involved in helping. Wasn't the key driver behind this, because there was other ones. I hate to say it, there was a sergeant major in the Army that did it. We're building this home for wounded warriors. He'll be in it. He's 100% wounded. He'll give him a home. He lives in it 5 years. It's his. I've worked along that line with veterans, and I don't care what nationality you are. I do have one problem I have, and this is on the national side, with illegal immigrants coming in. We have laws. My family's grandfathers, they came over here legally, worked, and then I have a problem with someone says, well, we're going to let some of these illegal ones in the service. And if I was out there, I wouldn't, and I was in a firefight, and I was depending on someone to do, and they said, well, they're in here illegally, what makes you think they're going to stand there and back me? You know, I want someone behind the back. And that's where I think the people in the city here will find I'll be behind them, and I'll back them. I'm not going to run the other direction. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it, you know. If I think something's wrong with the city council, I'll suggest some things. But again, once you get to know me, I may not agree with everything people want me to do, okay? It'll be what I think after everybody's give their feet in and other people think what the majority would like to do, you know? So it's kind of, I don't know what, something in me said one day, you know, I think you can handle it. If I don't handle it, I may not, if I don't get through the primary or I don't get through the election, become mayor, I've raised some questions that people can think of, and people out there, if there's one person out there that said, hey, Bob said something that maybe I can work on, and maybe they'll come along, you know. It's not, you know, I don't think it is a personal gain, you know.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you here. And thank you for watching.